Hello children, welcome you to Form 3 History, First Midterm, Unit 1 Traditional Technologies and Arts of Sri Lanka. Let's see the objectives of this lesson. Studying about the bricks and tile industry of ancient Sri Lanka. Studying about the metal technology of early ages. Learning about the architectural creations and learning about the religious buildings. The content of the lesson. A. Making bricks and tiles. B. Metal technology. C. Architectural and artistic creations. And D. Religious buildings. So first of all, let's discuss about making tiles. The evidences reveal that the bricks had been used in Sri Lanka from around 3rd century BC. The brick technology had been very developed by the time of King Dagoba. The huge constructions like Ruanvelisaya Dagoba had done using bricks. It's saying that the King Dagoba had called the brick producers and selected the one who made strongest bricks for the construction of Ruanvelisaya. The size of bricks made at the early age of Anuradhapura era were bigger than the bricks at present. The absorption of water into bricks was minimum and they could bear massive weight. For the renovation work of Jetavana Stupa, the requirement of strong bricks arose, but it was difficult for the brick producers to produce bricks with a similar quality. So they built a special kiln in Galkadavala village in the central division and bricks were produced there. The examples for ancient constructions done using bricks are Abhayagiri Dagoba, Jetavana Dagoba in Anuradhapura, Demala Mahasaya and King Parakramabahu's palace in Polonnaruwa. Let's move the other slide. The buildings of ancient times had been made of wood and covered with roofing tiles. So, it's clear that there had been roofing tile producers called Ulu Vaduwa. There had been tile roofs for the buildings of religious places, public buildings, kings' palaces and houses of chieftains. There had been several rudimentary phases in making roofing tiles, such as selecting suitable clay types, firming up the clay, putting clay into molds, shaping the tiles and drying and firing them. Now, let's talk about the metal technology. According to the archaeological excavations, it seems that the metals like iron and copper had been used before the 3rd century BC. There had been a rapid development of metal technology due to the expansion of agriculture, rapid urbanization and the development of construction field. An expansion of cave inscription shows that the iron and steel tools had been used for making drip ledgers on rock caves and carving the writings on stones to make inscriptions. There are iron workers engaged in various fields of metal industry, such as Kabara, it's called the blacksmiths, and Tambara, it's called the coppersmith, and Topasha, it's called tinkers. Metals as iron, bronze, copper, silver and gold had been used in Vajrata era, and it says that iron, copper and silver had been obtained from Sri Lanka itself. Five pieces of gold and some gold coins were found during the excavating a pond in Abhayagiri temple premises in Anuradhapura. Their weight of those gold pieces had been also engraved on them in calendars, which was a small measuring unit of ancient Sri Lanka. And it was found that a goldsmith's workshop too had been there on a bank of the pond. Furnaces used for melting gold and parts of a clay vessels used for collecting water have been found in excavations. The anklets, bangles, earrings, necklaces too had been found at Abhayagiri temple premises. So we can assume that the goldsmith's workshop had been one for the purpose of plating the images in the temple with gold and making various ornaments. Now let's talk about the use of iron. Iron too had been widely used in the country after 3rd century BC. Iron was used to make nails, agricultural implements and tools. Iron had been produced in the country itself. Samanala Vava area, Aloka Vava area, Dehigaha Alakanda area are the places where iron extraction had been done. Rocks that contain iron had been broken into pieces and put to the furnaces to extract iron. The monsoon wind had been used for the continuous burning of charcoal. Here are some pictures of the furnaces used in ancient Sri Lanka. Now let's talk about the architectural and artistic creations. Architectural creations can be mainly divided into two, as religious buildings and non-religious buildings. Under religious buildings, we can discuss about Dagoba, Chaitiyagara, Bodhigara, image houses, temples and monasteries, meditating chambers, almshouses and devalas. And under non-religious buildings, we can talk about palaces of kings, fortresses, hospitals, houses, toilets and urinals. Okay, now let's talk about each of these one by one. Religious buildings. First, Dagobas. Thuparama is the first Dagoba, and there are more huge Dagobas such as Mirisavatiya, Mahathupa, Ruwanvelisaya, Abhayagiriya, Jethavanaya in Anuradhapura. There are some other Dagobas built outside of the capital even, such as Seruwabila, Somavatiya, Tissamaharamaya, Madiragiriya, Digavakvi Dagoba and Nilagiriya Dagoba. Here are the Dagobas we can find in Polonnaruwa era. Polonnaruwa Kirivehera, Demala Mahasaya, Dadigama Kotavehera, Yudanganawa Dagoba and Rankotvehera. Okay children, now let's learn this table. This table is all about the period, the name of Dagobas and the name of kings who constructed these Dagobas. In Anuradhapura era, Dagobas such as Thuparama, Ruwanwalisaya, Mirisawatiya, Abhayagiriya and Jetavana were made. Thuparama Dagoba was done by King Devanam Pitisa. Ruwanwalisaya Dagoba and Mirisawatiya Dagoba were done by King Dutugamunu. Abhayagiriya Dagoba was done by King Malagamba. Jetavana Dagoba was done by King Mahasen. And when we are talking about the Polonnaruwa era, Polonnaruwa Kirivehera, Demala Mahasaya, Yudanganawa Dagoba and Dadigama Kotavehera were done by King Parakramabāhu the Great. And the Rankotvehera was done by King Nishaka Malla. When we are talking about Dagoba, it can be divided into different parts, such as Padama. Padama means the base of the stupa, and the basal rings, or we are saying in Sinhala as Pesa Valalu. Next, the relic chambers. Relic chambers is called the Garbhaya. And next to the relic chambers, there is the cylindrical neck of the Dagoba. It's called Devata Kotuwa. And next, conical spire, it means Kotkaralla. And at last, pinnacle is there, it means Kotha. Now, let's talk about Vaharkada, or we call it as frontispiece. Vaharkada or the frontispiece have been constructed facing the four cardinal directions to enhance the aesthetic value of Dagoba. The most remarkable Vaharkada of Rajaratha era is in the eastern side of Kantaka Chetiya Mihintale. Here are some pictures of an ancient Vaharkada and a picture of a modern Vaharkada. And next talk about Chetiyagara, or in Sinhala we call it as Watadagaya. This is a chamber constructed for the protection of small Dagobas. The evidences show that Watadagayas had been constructed by standing huge stone pillars around Dagoba and making angular roofs by fixing the wooden rafters onto the top of the stone pillars. Madhuragiriya Watadagaya is the most artistic Watadagaya in Rajaratha era, and also Thuparama, Lankarama, Ambasthala and Thiriyaya Dagobas are made of stone pillars that had been used to construct Chetiyagaras. And now other slide. It's about Bodhigara. Bodhigara is a house constructed around bo trees for their protection and also to enhance the beauty. The Bodhigara had been constructed around Jayasrima Bodhiya too. After the Jayasrima Bodhiya brought to Sri Lanka, the 8 shoots, it means Ashtapala Bodhiya, and the 32 shoots, it means Detispala Bodhiya, that grew from it were planted in various parts of the country. And now let's talk about the image houses. Image houses were constructed to protect images from rain and the sun. There had been several traditions of image houses, such as Gandhakuti tradition, and it is considered to be the oldest tradition, and Gediki tradition, and also the cave temple tradition. Image houses of Gediki tradition is a well-developed stage of Gandhakuti tradition. In Gediki tradition, not only the walls but also the roofs had been made of bricks and stones. There had been a remarkable development in this tradition during the period of King Parakrama the Great. He had constructed the image houses like Tuparama, Lanka Tilaka, and Tivanka image house. The special features of the cave temples is the main image had been constructed in reclining position. Some of the examples are Pidurankala, Hulannuge, and Babaragas Thalavar. There you can see reclining positions of the images of Lord Buddha. Okay children, now slide. Here I talk about the temple monasteries. At the earlier stages, natural caves were used by bhikkhus to live. But when the time passes, the bhikkhus began to live in bigger temples such as Abhayagiriya and Chetavana, which were constructed and offered to bhikkhus under the guidance of royal patronage. At those temple monasteries complexes, many other buildings had been also constructed in addition to the main religious buildings in order to fulfill the various needs of bhikkhus. And our last topic is Devalas. There had been Devalas in the early age of Sri Lanka. Hindu Devalas were constructed during the Polonnaruwa kingdom. The best examples are the Siva Devala 1 and 2. Siva Devala 2 had been constructed out of stone according to the Chola architectural style. Okay children, that's the end of the lesson. And now I would like to talk about the summary of the lesson. The summary of the lesson was the brick industry, producers of bricks, constructions and the steps of producing bricks in ancient Sri Lanka. And we talked about the use of metals, use of silver, copper, gold, and the rapid development of the metal industry and the process of extracting iron from natural rocks also. And also we talked about the architectural creations such as religious buildings belonging to Rajaratna civilization. We talked about Chaitiyagara, Bodhigara, image houses, temple, monasteries and Devalayas. And here is an activity for you. Please try to answer all these questions. First question is, write a brief description about the brick technology. How was the metal technology in ancient Sri Lanka? Question number 3. What were the religious buildings? Question number 4. What are the main parts of a Dagoba? Fifth question, briefly explain Chaitiyagara, Bodhigara, image house, temple, monasteries and Devalayas. And the last question is, list out the Dagobas done in Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa eras with the names of kings. Okay, that's the end of the session. Thank you very much for joining with us. Have a good day.